Nilsen and welcome back to another episode of Nahuatl Tlahtocan. Needless to say, but I'm gonna say it anyway, it's been a crazy year. A lot has happened since I released the last episode of Nahuatl Tlahtocan. Not to go into too much detail, but I just started my first year of induction as a high school ethnic studies teacher and joined probably more committees than I could healthily handle.
I also got COVID-19 as soon as the school year started, so there was that.
With that said, most of my focus since the last episode has been dedicated to my students. But I had some downtime since New Year's Eve, we're on winter break, and I wanted to start the year off on a positive note with another video. So, here we are, in Nahuatl Tlahtocan, episode 4, singular and compound nouns. The first thing to note about Nahuatl nouns is that they are not gendered. Unlike Spanish, where O is used for males and A is used for females. For example, the Spanish word for brother is hermano, with an O at the end. And the Spanish word for sister is hermana, with an A at the end. But in Nahuatl, you would just say ikniutli, which means brother, sister, or friend. Typically, singular Nahuatl nouns, when not possessed, have a stem and one of the four following suffixes: TL, TLI, LI, or IN. I have here a list of 4 Nahuatl nouns. I wrote the stems in blue and the suffixes in red. The first word is ach, which means water. The stem is A, as in ah, and the suffix is TL, as in k, pronounced by touching the tip of your tongue to the back of your upper teeth like you're making a T sound, t, while blowing air on the sides of your tongue. Ach. The next word is otli, which means road or path. Remember that H, when it's not next to the letter U, is a glottal stop in Classical Nahuatl. Think of the expression someone makes when there's trouble.
Uh-oh.
That pause between and O in the expression uh-oh is the glottal stop. The stem is and the suffix is tli, so the word is otli. The next word is kolli, which means grandfather or ancestor. The stem is kol, and the suffix is li, kolli. And the fourth word is olin. The stem is ol, and the suffix is in, olin. In is also sometimes translated as the. So add it as a suffix to the word oli, which means rubber, and you get olin, or the rubber. In the Mesoamerican ball game, called olamalisli in Nahuatl, the game is played with a rubber ball. And what does the rubber ball do? It moves. So, olin is also translated as movement. Now let's talk about compound nouns. When 2 nouns are combined, the first noun drops its suffix, but the second noun keeps its suffix. I have here a list of nouns that are combined with other nouns, the first of which is aguacamole. When you combine the word aguacate, which means avocado, with the word mole, which means sauce, you get aguacamole, which means guacamole.
Or avocado sauce.
Keep in mind that in compound nouns, the focus is always on the last word in the compound in Classical Nahuatl. For example, a guacamole is a sauce. What kind of sauce? An avocado sauce. A guacamole does not mean saucy avocado. But let's get back to the list. When you combine the word tepostli, which means metal, with the word tototl, which means bird, you get tepostototl, which means metal bird, or in other words, airplane. When you combine the word cali, which means house, with the word poli, which is a suffix implying large size, you get calpoli, which literally means big house, but also translates as neighborhood or community. I've also heard poli translated as a word that implies a union. So calpoli could be translated as a union of houses. And when you combine the word michin, which means fish, with the word tet, which means stone or egg, you get michtet, which means fish egg. There's also some additional rules you'll need to know when combining Nahuatl words. For example, Nahuatl stems that end with an I usually drop the I when combined with another word. When you combine mait, which means hand, with pili, which means offspring, the I in mait is dropped and you get mapili, which means offspring of the hand, or fingers. Although there are exceptions, like xochitl, which means flower. Combine xochitl with comil, which means pot, and the I does not get dropped. It just becomes xochicomil, which means flower pot. The next rule is that whenever a noun stem ends with HUI, the I is dropped, as mentioned in the previous rule, but that HU becomes a UH. After all, HU and UH both represent the same W sound in Nahuatl. So when you combine shiwit, which means turquoise herb or year, with tequitli, which means lord, you get shiutequitli, which means turquoise lord. Another rule is that when you have a noun that ends with li and combine it with a noun that starts with TL, the T is dropped. So for example, Kali, which means house, when combined with Tlali, which means land, becomes Kalali, which means house land, or in other words, land that's attached to someone's house. Well, that concludes this episode of Nahuatl Tlahtocan. I hope you're all doing well and staying safe, and I appreciate all the love you've been showing in the comments section down below. Also, let me know if you have any questions about Nahuatl,
Or corrections.
or if there's something you'd like to see in the next episode. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time. You're still here. Well, since you stuck around, I got a request to pronounce the poinsettia flower in Nahuatl. So let's break it down. The poinsettia flower in Nahuatl is called Cuitlaxochitl. It comes from Cuitlatl, which means excrement, and Xochitl, which means flower. According to Francis Cartoonin, probably referring to the flower's growth on dung heaps. But the word itself is pronounced Cuitlaxochitl. Cuitlaxochitl. I hope that helps, and once again, I hope you have a happy new year. I'll see you next time.